Everything must have a purpose.
Okay. Nice. Um, Actually, since you mentioned RBI, I'm gonna grab that video. Hold on one second, because I remembered on LinkedIn when you were talking about what I remember you being very excited about this video, the work you did for with Cypress Hill Champion Sound. Is there anything you'd like to talk a bit about this?
That was my happiest project in my career and my most stressful project in my career. So to circle back to 2021, I was I got called back on contract, and my boss was just like briefly towards the end of my contract, hey, we might have a project with Cypress Hill, but a couple of days before, and I was just like, okay. So within like the next day, like, yeah, did you start filming that project for Cypress Hill yet? I sat there, was just like, oh, wait, what? You said Mike? It's like, yeah, it turns out they want it now. So literally was just like, all right, I now need to like figure out how I can make something really cool within that short amount of time. And I'm working with my editor, so we're both trying to get on the same page. Because if we mess up, they don't have nothing to put out there. So we're grinding it out, and then we're talking up. I'm like, yo, we could use some cool Vista shots, and he was thinking the same thing too. So it's like, all right, we're in sync. So shot some like really dope footage of Dodger Stadium. Uh, Figured it'd be nice to tie them into the game. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna just get some B-roll of them like going through the character creator, making themselves in there. So it feels like they're the ones playing the game, getting them involved as much as possible because they're Dodgers fans. They like playing baseball games no matter what. So going through there, then it's LA. So how can we make this feel like LA? The Dodger Stadium's mound has the logo right there. Frame it right there. Get some couple dolly shots. And just throw some Dutch in all over. All right, cool. It's framed up nice and rolling out. All right, so it's Sin Dog and Be Real rapping through the track. We're gonna need some properly well framed shots of like highlighting them, and we need to throw make sure the subject matter is still for game two. All right, let's get them hitting some home runs, tossing maybe some actual gameplay footage. So to keep going, calling back to that to they're playing the game. So it's just not them just playing out in their head, something like that.
I like the research, like even like taking the fact that like yo like they're Dodgers fans and like that like how much they care about LA. That I like that. That is dope.
Yeah, you get if you're no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're doing, who you are as an artist, you have to gather as much information as possible, even if it's something that you're not possible for. The audience will be able to tell that you ain't feeling it. I don't let me not say hate. I was in there with like a not much of a big interest in baseball, but I came out of it like having such a huge respect for the players, how things gets done because I was playing those games day in, day out, filming back and forth, figuring out figuring out how to do a proper a double play, triple play, what an actual RBI is because I thought that was just the name of the game when I started off. But you need to be involved as much as possible. You can't be married to your work, but you got to let your work marry you to a certain extent.
I like that because I also remember early on where you mentioned where it's like you need to separate yourself because of the fact that there's going to be criticism in this and you can't take that criticism to heart, but at the same time you also need to like bring a level of passion that like this isn't just like, oh well, I guess I'll do it because I'm being paid to. Like you need to care about creating something that's quality.
Yeah, yeah. Because that was one of the biggest things early off in my career where I was a 3D just a 3D artist trying to like find like quick contract gigs to actually just like fill my bank account so I could pay bills and just like not starve and whatnot. But I remember this one project in particular. I got called in, like I got asked to do some cleanup work for a mobile game, and I just sat there, just like, all right, cool. I'm just breaking down tries. I don't like this. I'm gonna stop. Broke contract. Guys, just like, well, I wanted you to do more work. It's like, well, I don't like for work. Now I'm sitting on my butt, starving for the next couple of months because I turned down a contract too early. So,
Uh,
yeah, I might not like it, but I'm gonna have to do what I got to do to get it done.
well, That's a great segue into a question I had on the docket. So, if there were things that you'd want to go back and like start over in terms of teaching yourself, what might any of those things be?
Yeah. So I would honestly like to go back and do more studying for lighting. As good as I am with it now through my independent studies and research, I feel like if I had honed that a lot earlier on when like college per se, I could be able to really control moods better for when I have to film things down, especially when like going into compositing work with video, it would open up a lot more doors for me. Even though I'm happy with the path I am right now, it's still like plays a huge merit to what I have to do as a filmmaker.
Okay. Do you think it's just that like you were interested in like because I remember you thought you went to school for like at 3D animation at Full Sail. Do you think it's really just that like you found what you really wanted to do later on, and so you just sort of had to like sort of start over at learning new things?
Uh, so I'm a very stubborn. Well, I was a very stubborn individual, very headstrong. So college, one of my teachers, her name was Eileen. She worked on a show called Sitting Ducks. I don't know if you guys remember that. It used to come on Cartoon Network back in the day before Hamtaro and all of that. She told me, "You are one of the most animated individuals I've ever come into contact with. You would be a tremendously good animator." And I sat there, was like, I want to make models for a living. That's what I'm gonna do. Had I listened to her, I would have had so much more opportunities because my animation classes, I was like well above majority of the guys that are actually like passionate about it at the time. So it's like, all right, cool. I understand the 12 principles really well because I can act out my scenes, and when I act out my scenes, I put myself into my character's shoes no matter what. But yeah.
I really wish I didn't relate so strongly with that comment about teachers telling me things and me ignoring them. And then years later, I'm like, well, I could have saved myself a lot of pain and heartache if I'd have just done what these people told me.
Oh man.
Uh, uh, hmm, next question. This is getting a little too personal for me. um, so actually, um, I know that you like. I know that you always don't really have time to like play a lot of games, but in terms of just looking at like the cinematic work that like other like people in the industry are doing, are there any games that you're like, ooh, I really like what they're doing here? Like really interesting in terms of like cinematic work?
Oh man, so there's actually a couple. I try to for major releases, I try to pick them up as much as I can. Recently, because I've been playing this game for like over 10 years now, and I can't stand myself for saying that out loud. Destiny. Damn. So recently, with the final season coming out, Lightfall coming out next week, they just put out their ending cinematic for Witch Queen, and it was one of the most beautiful, emotionally filmed pieces that I've seen in a long time. Uh, God of War Ragnarok it's filmed really well, but that brief moment that has been going on for that game, to see these characters really like watching their facial expressions just flushed because something so great is just happening. It was done so well for a brief moment that any like something that has about like 20 to like 100 hours of content or like in-game content has been doing, this managed to capture within a brief moment. That was good filmmaking. I highly recommend that everyone who has a chance to go, even if you don't play the game, just watch that final sequence for Witch Queen. Going on from there, one of my favorite companies of all times that does an amazing job consistently with the filmmaking in almost every game or everything they touch, Insomniac. If you played the Miles Morales game and you had to watch, you seen the final moments where his mask is just ripping off and how like involved you have to be because this is now a life or death matter and it's just done so well. It to me that was filmed way better than the Spider Verse, and I'll take the smoke if anybody wants to come at me for that.
All right.
They did a tremendous job capturing like the facial tension, the actual emotional heart behind everything in that game.
Okay. So I'll make sure we schedule like a part two for anyone who wants to argue with you, or if anyone's like, "Yo, hold on, I got some smoke," just like take those questions to the chat, and we'll try and get to them later. So, sort of bouncing off of that question, were there any games, and this is obviously not to like bash your peers or anything, but are there any games where like you saw like what they were doing and you were like, I get the idea, but I would have gone about this I would have gone about this differently.
Oh man, Pokemon, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It's been very rough being a Pokemon fan for the past like
Life.
since I was a kid. Yeah.
He's gonna say life. He's gonna say a big number.
But yeah, like seeing them go from I want to call these games out specifically because this was their gradual transition into an actual direction of stylization. Sun and Moon. Towards the end of the game where you actually have like a good some of these like quick camera turns, they're very simplistic. Not a lot of thought has been put into them. Sword and Shield, very stagnant. Same thing. You get to Scarlet and Violet now. They're doing a lot more emphasis on readability and framing. The framing is okay in some spots. The intro sequence to the game, where it's really highlighting the whole region, it's okay, but it feels very lost in a lot of places. Especially when you get into the characters' faces, you still have the whole nah nah type thing. It's like, all right, y'all could have filmed around that, throw in a Dutch or two, make it more dynamic and not so dull. But still, it's a good game. But if you're gonna be going into that realm of storytelling, you need stronger pieces to really flesh out this ideology that you're trying to build.
Okay. After this, I'll check and see if I see any media artist or filmmaking positions at Nintendo, and I'll send them your way if I find any.
Oh joy.
All ready for that move to Japan. So I noticed you mentioning about stylization in film, and I was wondering, do you feel like you have a sort of style in how you like prepare footage, or like a way that you like maybe you like doing certain types of shots?
Yes. So I didn't realize this until I was at turn 10, but I got called out on this from my boss. I love Dutch. I love those super dynamic angles where I'm forcing perspective, especially when it comes down into motion. Dutch is like my favorite film technique.
Okay.
So
I'm gonna
yeah.
Google that real quick. Could you mind explaining for those of us who are?
So when you have your camera framed in like this, straight up like this standard definition. You can do it like this, and just by going through looking at my face right now on screen, the perspective has shifted so greatly. It's now like a little bit more dynamic. You can see like how my eyes like barely cutting into frame, and my nose is like barely cutting into frame too. But when I go back to this, it feels more balanced. So simple things like that. When you apply that to action sequences, you get some really sharp, like some sharp motions going through. Especially if you're going down a film like everything everywhere and nowhere at once that came out last year.
Okay, yeah.
They used it in a very specific way to highlight certain actions, and even just like how they filmed it in a traditional Chinese like martial arts cinema where it wasn't done by cut like we do in America.
Yeah.
They did it in one solid take. Watch it through, you'll be able to see how those actions felt a lot stronger in comparison to like American footage. And me with Dutch, a lot of the animes that I watch, because anime is a huge inspiration for me. So Dutch it up, and especially yeah, Jonathan Jennings just said it right there. He sees it in like the MLB trailer. I came in there with like nervous as hell, so I was using a lot of film references from Ace of Diamonds, one anime for a lot of the work. So you'll see that a lot.
Okay. So do you think you like when your boss mentioned it? Did he just mention like, "Hey, I noticed that you like this," or was he like, "You need to stop because you overuse it," or?
It was a mix of the two because I remember when he was talking to me, he was like, "Wow, this is something the marketing department would eat up." I was just like, "Oh, I'm doing a good job." But then he was like, "Yeah, at the same time too, we're going for a specific look. So even if
Okay.
you just rolled it back slightly,
Okay.
because just roll it back slightly. It's like, yeah, you get the full on perspective of things. Like, yeah, all right, cool. I'll do it this way because remember, it's not my project. It's everybody else's. It's going out to a key audience right now. So
Right. So what you're saying is it should have been your project. So then you could have just gone in just full Dutch, just angles everywhere.
nah, the second if I had my way, it would have been filmed like a Fast and Furious for like 2 seconds.
That's great. I love Fast and Furious movies.
Oh man,
So let's see. I feel like I skipped a question. I should mention that. Oh, actually, how did you discover Dutch? Like, how did you get into that?
anime,
Right. No, sorry. Yeah, you didn't finish.
anime. So I think it was like initially from Hajime no Ippo with some of those key actions where you get where he got really tucked in,
Yeah.
especially when he was doing the rolling I think it's called the Rolling Thunder because I know Dudley in
Yeah.
Street Fighter 4 or 5 was using it.
Yeah.
He dug in deep, shot it at an angle, pushed the depth of field, came in. Every action came in with the head consecutive,
Yeah.
especially when you catch it from like up close and just film it like this the shoulders lean right there, leading into the action of the arms.
Yeah.
Bam, right across screen.
All right.
Killed it.
That is definitely going to be the next thing I watch because I've like seen clips of Hajime no Ippo, but I have not put down and actually gone like front to back. So that's definitely going to be the next thing on the list.
Yo.
So I
And
remember
toss
you.
in Megalobox too.
This man's just like, no, no, no. Here's the things you're supposed to be watching. So I remember you mentioning every action needs a purpose. Are there any like core rules that you say that people need to follow for their film, like when they're doing film and games?
Oh man. So there's a lot of times this is going to be divvying up from gameplay capture work to film work, even though they're just like this. With gameplay capture work, you're bound to what the constraints are of the game itself. So if that camera's there, if you adjust anything, you're really already breaking how you're gonna be selling the game to the audience. So with that in mind, you need to pay attention to how your character is dressed, how your character's abilities will play on screen. Even because if you're working with like a game that actually has like AI enemies, you can't really not all the time you're gonna have like full control over the AI. So you need to make sure that your actions can balance off with what's going on the screen, making sure that it's readable. Readability translates to both aspects of filmmaking for capture to filming. And in the filming department, once again, readability everything needs a purpose. If you're doing it applying Dutch to an action, why are you applying it? If you're doing a dolly, why is that dolly going so high? If you're panning, what are you panning for? If you're just moving a camera left and right and there's nothing else going on in the background and just creating just drastic use of negative space, you're not doing things correctly. Because remember, when these videos go out online, people will comment. Gamers are angry. We are an angry bunch. Just especially the bigger the company.
Hold on. You
We
are an angry person. I am very compassionate. I don't know anything about what you're talking about right now.
oh man, what is anger without passion?
Oh,
Violence.
here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, those key things are what define a good film artist in gaming. Because I'm still growing as an artist in this medium because I came in from character modeling, had to force myself to become a all around 3D artist, mocap, and now cameras. So that's one of those things that I had to keep telling myself. I could use all these filming styles as reference. Quentin Tarantino, I love his directing style. Uh, James Cameron, lens flare it up. Just got to be smart how you apply it. Wait, no, is that James Cameron? No, that's not James Cameron. I'm messing up right now. Point being, yeah, because King Kong is actually one of my favorite films, and a lot of the shots in there are filmed very slow. For rebooted King Kong with Jack Black, yeah, it's filmed very slow, but each moment in there because I said earlier that I want to make sure I film something that gets very emotional.
Yeah.
and I want my audience to cry at some point or just like feel like wow without storytelling. Wally, one of my favorite movies. Nonverbal communication was used throughout that in there, and everything was told with action and framing. You can figure out everything that's gonna happen next with good framing.
Cool. So,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
I
no,
got
say
called
so.
out with the lens flares.
I was like, yo, Tim seems really upset. He's just like, how dare you? All right, we'll make sure we give him a chance to speak because I feel like he has some opinions about lens flare. Um, so I know you mentioned like I would made a joke about like yo, you want to make people cry in film. So like, what would you say is like the thing you want to do next? Like the thing you really want to do like during your career in game dev?
Yo, real talk. I've come down to the point where I feel like I don't necessarily feel like I've plateaued, but I feel like my confidence as an artist, my confidence as a black man in this space has reached this point of a point of maturity. Just taking a look back at who I was about like 5, 6 years ago, I overcame a lot, and now that I kept pushing myself to get to this point where I am right now. I don't want this to be where I stop. So I want to be able to continue to inspire people, and I honestly feel like I want to start my own game studio at one point. I think I'm making the correct steps and traversing through the correct spaces right now to get that to happen. Uh, I've worked hard. I made sure that everything that my name is attached to it speaks volumes. The people that I've worked for understand that I can deliver what they want, and my coworkers, I treat them with the utmost respect. That's important when you're going into a new studio too. Can't be too like stuck in your own ways and antisocial. But I want to be able to tell my own stories because I'm starting to feel like a lot of things are being done. The same people playing the same types of games over and over again. I would like to shake it up a bit and give some new thoughts, invoke some new responses.
Okay, interesting. Um, are there any? All right, so he's like, okay, so you want to focus very much on like a smaller studio that's like very focused on like storytelling in games.
Yeah.
Are there any like I guess to say like recent games that give you in mind like yo that's the kind of thing I want to do? Obviously not like make that same game, but just like in the same like that gives you inspiration for what you want to do.
Oh man. So I wouldn't say it's a game itself, but a section of a game. Uh, Resident Evil 8, the dollhouse section.
Okay.
The I don't like horror games. I don't like inanimate objects that move, i.e., Doctor Who for Weeping Angels. They scare the hell out of me. But I sat down there and I was playing through it. And I'm just like, oh shit, I've watched YouTube videos of this scene in particular. And now I'm here doing it myself for research. All right, I got this. I got this. I'm gonna be a thug about it. Be a thug about it. All right, cool. Where are my guns? Well, oh, I already knew my guns are going away, but where are my guns? I need this. I'm hearing stuff in the background. Just all these noises, and you're supposed to be alone. I'm freaking out. I'm sitting here just like, oh, bruh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I ran down this one part where you're having to like break down this puzzle for this doll, and I'm like, okay, I got this. I got this.
You was thugging,
I
right?
stopped.
You was
Yo,
really
I
being a thug
stopped.
about it.
I'm being a thug. I stopped. And I was just like, yo, I'm freaking out. I got teardrops rolling down my eyes. I got this. So I'm like, all right, cool. Door opens up back here, leads down dark stairs. I'm like, nah, here. And this, I got the 3D audio on, so I'm feeling this. It's resonating through my whole like the immersion factor of that part. It really took things home for me. That felt like good horror. You get down to the well. If you watch The Ring, we know black people in wells don't work out well. It's like, all right, cool. I'm hearing babies crying. I shut the game off, called my friend up. I need your help. I'm about to freak out. I am freaking out. So I'm literally crying, talking to my best friend on
Oh
the
my
phone.
god.
One of my other friends are on. Nope. Whoo, fuck that doll. Pardon my language. I can't. That doll? Nope. Mm. To the point where I finished all of that stuff while crying. That if you played through that section and you see that feet is chasing behind you and it's just in your ear, and if you're one of those people who can't like you worry about babies, and you hear that chasing behind you, I was screaming, crying while in my PS5 controller just shaking. All of that. Oh man, but yeah, I want to be able to to be able to invoke emotions like that with the immersion factor, which entails sound, sound, perspective, lighting, mood controlling, all of that. If you play through any good game, there are certain sounds that they have to create to really make you feel like you're involved with the gameplay. Uh, I know with Overwatch 1, I've been playing that game for a long time. The actions felt very cartoony and realistic. Oh, not realistic, very cartoony. But they recently did change this for Overwatch 2. This is me talking as a fan right now, not as a Blizzard employee. But they did some a ton of sound work on there where it's like, all right, you're getting echoes. So now when they're running around, you can hear the footsteps, you can hear the gunfire. So it's easy for you to pick up information where you're going through. If you play Call of Duty or any kind of first person shooter, you'll understand that you hearing those sounds will make you feel like you're in the heat of battle, controlling that emotion, the immersion factor. That's what I love, and that's what I want to convey.
While being a thug about it, of course.
No, I've given up on being a thug after that.
All right. Well, I see some really good questions coming up, so I want to make sure we save time for that. So let's actually start with Dr. Starks. I believe I right click and invite to speak. Yeah, there we go. Um,
Oh, hi. So this is when you were talking about the games and the cinematics. I thought about the cannery, the fish cannery section of What Remains of Edith Finch, and I was wondering if you'd played that and if you have any cinematic breakdowns for us as far as emotion in
Oh,
games.
I'm so sorry. I did not play that. But as far as a cinematic breakdown, I could give if anyone's played oh man, Ghost of Tsushima. Just doing a brief callback. I hope a lot of people played through that game at some point. If you look at the opening sequence where he has to fight the Mongol leader, even when you're playing through the gameplay stance, the the point that I want to get quick because I know we got a lot of questions. Your how the characters are framed on screen has to be very balanced for a samurai game for especially if they're going something that traditional. It was framed up very well evenly, and then going into their cutscene sequences was transition from cinematic to gameplay where you go through the field and then you see that field blossom open to really isolate how the world you're in is going to be portrayed. And there's an emphasis on color, treatment, and framing. So you already have the character that's established. He's framed in a heroic way. I believe it's in Japanese audience. I think it's screen left. Screen left emphasizes power, or is it screen? It depends on who's behind it. But I think he was film screen left going through it. And then once you hit gameplay, you're dead center, and everything in that scene was just like populated with things that are doing somewhere. The flower petals into the wind, along with the night sky. Each stars, trees, everything there had a purpose. So building that action up and knowing the direction, because from storyboards they tend to not really have those little key details in there. It's not until you get down to the later periods where you see all these things are being isolated into such a great subject piece of subject matter.
great. Okay, next up, Tim. Invite. Tim? Okay. I'll just read his question off. So Tim's question was, what do you think the next iteration would be for like a top tier photo mode in games?
Ooh, believe it or not, this might be a hot take. Gotham Knights actually had a very good photo mode in there.
Okay.
So even though they were rendering, they were they had a frame rate of 30 FPS, which is kind of like really subpar for this day and age. But the lighting that they had going on in there was very stylized in certain sections where certain colors were really popping. And but they managed to have like a very well done depth of field in comparison to I think I want to say the game another game that I played through that I really enjoyed the photo mode for was Horizon Forbidden West.
Okay.
It was very well balanced out. There needs to be tighter DOF controls and aperture, along with some cleaner filters. Because sometimes these filters you'll have to standard sepia, black and white, and all these things. But a lot of them don't allow you to control bloom, which is another good tool that can really emphasize action in certain ways. So tossing in those little tiny details like toggling final gather amount, global illumination, things like that, and even rendering, allowing you to render things out and diffuse ambient occlusion, so you could do layered footage for yourself. So that would be a good little transition into that.
So I am gonna say be careful with saying bloom in games because some of us remember the early 2000s when game developers discovered bloom and that was just all we used, and then like the game just looked like just a solar flare and that's all you could see.
JJ.
There it is. All right. Jonathan, let me call on you. Okay. So Jonathan's question was he wanted to know if you had any advice on how to approach creating a game trailer.
I love that. Because I can't stand when game companies do this in particular. If you're going to make a trailer, do not make a teaser. Know the difference between a teaser and a trailer. If you want to be connected to your audience, show as much gameplay as possible and make it make sense. If you plan on breaking the camera to do any kind of treatment, make sure these actions don't envelop the whole trailer. Know what type of trailer you're going to make, whether it be a teaser, gameplay, or cinematic. The three main types. There was a moment a couple of years ago where Rockstar Games, when they were debuting Red Dead Redemption 2, they said, "Hey, this is the trailer for it. This thing is 15 seconds long of people riding horseback in silhouettes. That's not a trailer. That's a teaser. It was hyped up to be a trailer. That's not what that's supposed to be." And then when you're doing gameplay stuff, if this is a gameplay trailer, why is there more footage being broken than anything else? There's no gameplay being shown from the HUD elements. There needs to be a very honest development between the company and its gameplay their player base. And it seems that like a lot of companies tend to do this all the damn time. So just know those types of things. Knowing if you're going to make a teaser, a cinematic, or an actual gameplay trailer.
Interesting. I like that. So, are there any other questions anyone has? Cool. I think that's everyone. Actually, well, very important. Um, you dropping your social media so people know where to contact you after the fact.
But
Oh,
yeah, I
sorry.
think we
Oh, we
got
did
one
skip
more
one.
thing.
Yeah, software you use for game capture.
Uh, a lot of the places that I go through tend to have proprietary software, which I cannot discuss. But for upon industry standard for smaller companies, OBS is everybody's best friend for game capture. Streamers use it, you'll use it, and just knowing just yeah, get OBS. Know which one you're going to be using. Strictly standard OBS, not Streamlabs, because Streamlabs is meant for streaming, a lot more friendlier for it. So
Okay.
yeah, OBS, highly recommend.
Cool. Any other questions? I'll leave a moment. I see Tim typing right now. Oh, we got a second one. Oh, you guys got to type faster. Type like the wind. Oh, we got three. Come on. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
editing software for indie smaller studios. If you can, I would always recommend Adobe Premiere. Final Cut is let's be real. I think me personally, I think Final Cut is just like out the water now. Nobody really uses it anymore because it's just there and it's expensive for no reason. Premiere is very friendly, straightforward, and it plays with all the Adobe other Adobe packages as well. So Premiere really good software to use for editing. If you need to go into VFX motion graphics elements, I'd recommend Nuke, which is a film, primarily a film package for compositors. I prefer it because it's more node based system. But if you're a standard guy and prefer a standard person, I would recommend After Effects. So if you prefer nodes, which tend to be a lot more flexible and you can do a lot of crazy things with nodes, I'd say I'd say do it that way. Nah, nah, Matt, no resolve.
That sounded personal. That sounds like there's a story behind it.
And would you
Ooh,
create?
ooh, here we go. That's a good question. You mentioned your love for
Ooh,
anime. If you could create an animated, yeah, I definitely want to hear the answer to this.
Unreal, Unreal. What? Let me tell you how Unreal the latest changes in Unreal have been so friendly for filmmaking. You have actual filmmaking tools built into it already to the point where you can actually chop up the cameras of live sections and move it around and it won't change up a thing in game. Unreal is it's come such a long way in terms of what an engine package can do. Look at the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian was used Unreal for a chunk of stuff, and there's been some. It's getting a ton of assets built into it for motion capture now too. Uh, yeah, Unreal would be the package that I recommend to anybody if they were trying to make a movie. If I ever decide to, Unreal.
So when you say, if I ever decide to, you mean as soon as you go to Japan and start this studio, you'll start doing an animated series based on your game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, me personally, I would have to go down to study Junji Ito's work a lot more for the type of stuff that I want to do. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Oh, you mean to terrify yourself?
Yeah, if I could scare myself, I could scare other people.
Cool. All right. Oh, so definitely before I forget, mention to drop your social media information so people know like how to contact you, where to follow you at.
Oh man. So you can hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at kmn.rdr. If you're a fan of, well, just breaking that down, I'm a huge Kamen Rider fan. You can't see my
Oh,
Kiva
all right.
and my Dark Kiva in the back.
Okay, let me not start ranting about Common Rider. We can do that. We can do that afterwards.
But yeah, it actually stands for multiple things. Making it quick, right quick. Kamon is actually Japanese for crest, and in Pokemon Silver, it's the name that replaced Ash in there. One of my favorite RPGs of all times, Pokemon Silver. And I'm a huge Kamen Rider fan, so getting rid of those vowels, KMN, and then RDR is essentially Red Dead Redemption. It's my first act legitimate game game credit
Okay.
and writer. So just
Oh, so
break
it's
those
like
down, put them
both
all
pieces
together.
have like double meanings.
Yep,
I like
one
that.
cohesive thing.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been a pleasure having you. Thank you very much for being our first speaker. And everyone else, thank you very much for attending. And yeah, that's a wrap.
All right. Y'all have a good night. Make sure you love yourself and treat your mental health too.